Good morning. Hi, it's Joy again. So for my centering class to kind of help with the COVID-19 lack of visits and sort of social distancing, I've been doing some brief educational videos to kind of help them prepare for labor and what to expect and everything. So this is going to be a discussion about labor and normal labor, sort of what we do, sort of different interventions that can happen and why we might want to do those interventions, and a little bit on some emergencies that might happen, and again, what that would mean for you. All of this is sort of intended to give you the best ability to make choices that are appropriate for you. We want this labor to go the best we can for you. We can't eliminate all of the emergencies that happen. We can't prevent all of the things that can go wrong in labor. We can promote a healthy labor. We can promote healthy outcomes. So just because one thing doesn't necessarily go the way that you might want it to, or you might think it will go, or just because something's abnormal, doesn't mean we can't still provide you the most like what you would want, but also the most healthy delivery for you and your baby. And by healthy, I don't always mean C-sections. Like, that's not, our attempt is to actually prevent C-sections. So I'll sort of, these are impromptu, so I'm not as organized maybe as some, but I would like to just sort of move through the labor process. A couple things can happen in a labor. So you can start contractions, and they can start up pretty earnestly and pretty strong, and then just sort of you will continue through labor. Sometimes and often contractions will sort of start and stop. You might experience a couple hours of some more regular contractions every 15 minutes, and then with water and rest, they go away. And that's okay. That's your body preparing for labor. There's a lot of work that it takes to get that cervix to get soft and squishy and ready to dilate. And sometimes it's a couple days of just irregular contractions, and it's uncomfortable. And some women can be pretty exhausted by the end of that process. It is okay to take Benadryl to try to rest at night through some of this. It is very important that you stay hydrated. Very important that you rest. Showers, comfort measures are important. Overdoing it, trying to get this baby out, trying to get contractions going is actually going to make you more exhausted. So my recipe for getting a baby out is water, rest, food, and peace. And then my body will say, okay, now I have what I need to do a labor the right way. And a lot of our interventions that we do actually address things like dehydration, pain, tenseness, lack of relaxation, exhaustion. So a first-time mom sometimes will have 24 hours of just regular every 5-minute, 3-minute contractions, and she's not dilating much. She comes in and she's mad because she's only 2 centimeters dilated. What they are doing is softening that cervix, getting that cervix to be soft, squishy, and shorter. So when we talk about cervixes, they're about as long as a fist or a finger, and they are closed hard, and they are the part that holds the baby in the uterus. And the last parts of the weeks of the pregnancy, the baby descends into the pelvis and puts pressure on that piece, that muscle, and it causes it to thin out and shorten, and then and get softer. And then contractions sort of press that baby's head against that cervix, and the goal is to open it in a circular fashion, to like pooping kind of, to allow the baby's head to come down through. It takes longer to get to 4 centimeters sometimes than it does to go from 4 to 10 centimeters. And what we're talking about with that is that the cervix will start to open, and 1 centimeter is about the width of a finger. 2 is about 2 kind of squished together. 3 is 2 of my big fat fingers side by side. And then as you go 4, there's a little bit of space. We have rules as to what dilation it is. 10 centimeters just means that I no longer feel cervix around the baby's head. There's nothing holding that baby up inside the uterus anymore. And at that point, pushing will help bring that baby down through the pelvis and out through the vagina. If we start pushing here, you're fighting against the muscle that's holding that baby in, and you're not going to get a baby out. You're going to get swollen, puffy cervix, and that cervix isn't going to open. So we want to wait until you're fully dilated before we do any pushing. And again, it may take 24 hours to get to here and active labor, and then you're contracting every 2 to 3 minutes, lasting about a minute. Then we would start to expect at this point about 1 centimeter an hour of change from your regular contractions. But until you're contracting regularly, I don't expect any dilation to really happen. So some people's contractions start up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. They're like, ugh, I can't sleep, I can't rest, it hurts, I'm not sleeping anymore. Good. Get out of bed, walk, take a shower, do whatever. If you can't sleep through it anymore, most likely it's more serious. But if you can rest, drink, and lay down and they go away, don't worry about them. It's not real labor yet. So once you're not sleeping through them anymore, once they're coming every 3 to 5 minutes and you're really working through them, like you have to focus on keeping your shoulders relaxed, that may be a good time to give us a call. Other thing that can happen is your water can break. Your water can break before contractions start. It can break during your labor sometime, or we can break it for you at certain points during your labor, and sometimes it is important to do so during your labor. Water breaking before contractions start is not an emergency, but it is important to tell us if you think you're leaking. So by that I mean if you feel a pop, water's running down, trickling down your leg. You change everything and everything soaks through again. That is probably a good thing to call us about. If you're not really sure, call us anyway and ask. Sometimes it's good to just talk through it. If you have one little gush just give us a call if you have any questions about that. But at that point, there's the barrier between the baby and the outside world is broken, and your risk for infection starts. And so we would like you to be moving towards delivery within 24 hours of that happening, just to decrease the risk of infection. Some women's water breaks and then the contractions start right away. In some women's, it takes a couple hours and they start to feel crampy and then things sort of progress. That's a normal process. That's okay. What isn't okay is if your water breaks and 12 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours later, you're not contracting. Again, the longer we wait, the more risk for infection. And so many times, if nothing is happening 6 hours after your water breaks, really we should see you, really we should discuss, how are we going to make this happen so that we avoid risk of a long labor with your first time, 2 days, vaginal exams, infection, and then the baby heads to the NICU because it's got a fever, you've got an infection going on. So we want to avoid those complications. If we break your water during labor, usually you're on your way to having a baby, and that is less of a risk.